I'm not a doom and gloom guy per se, contrary to a lot of the thumbnails that you might see on my channel. But I do think that the end of Airbnb, as we know it, is approaching. And what I mean by this, I recently made a video that talked about how the business model of Airbnb is shifting, where I think hosts are waking up a little bit. I think they're kind of tired of being, handled or poked and prodded by the Airbnb bear. And I think that the Airbnb platform, as grateful as I am for it, is making a lot of changes in the space that aren't particularly favorable to hosts, but are favorable to guests.
Yeah. I feel that a lot of people are realizing now that it's not the be all and end all. It's not the only channel. It's just a marketing channel as well. So you combine the two things, the things that they've had to put up with, policy changes, higher fees, etc., and you combine that with the fact that a lot of people now are getting a bit more professional, so they are getting a property management software tool. They're getting a guestie, and when they're on the guestie and they're on the back end, they see that they can connect to these other places, like Verbo or Booking.com. Booking.com have such a big surge of listing growth in America over the last 12 months, which is crazy. But I feel like it's because hosts are going, my Airbnb bookings have dried up. Let me go and try somewhere else. It's like if your Instagram views are down, you go and create a TikTok, right? It's the same sort of thing. Yep. And I feel like a lot of people are realizing that. And then once you start going multi-channel and you've got a property management software tool like a Guesty, for example, then you go, well, there's this little button here called website. Let me just tick that. And there's a little button here where I can take payments. So I basically can do direct. And I feel like that has been the impetus over the last couple of years where people are like, right. And your video a couple of weeks ago was insane. How many people were saying, I want direct bookings help. I was seeing in the comments how many people were believing it. So I just feel like 2026 is the year of direct bookings.
For sure. I often will ask my audience, hey, if you want me to make content about blank, let me know in the comments. And by far, this is the video that got the most comments whenever I raise that question to the audience. I think it's time to really give some spotlight to direct bookings in a very real way in 2026. And that's what we're going to do today. One thing that I want to give you credit for that I say a lot, and I don't always credit you for this, but today you're going to get the credit. So if you ever hear me say it, just know it came from Mark Simpson. There's a metaphor you gave when you spoke at my conference, HostCon, a couple years ago. And you said, how many here work a 9-to-5 job? And everybody raised their hands. And you said, if you lose your 9-to-5 job, you have lost your only source of income. And Airbnb is the same way. Airbnb, for a lot of hosts, is the only place where they list their property. And if Airbnb deactivates you or shadow bans you or takes you off the listing, you have lost your only source of income. And that is something that has hit home for me, a very good host that is above board in everything that I do, because I have been taken off of Airbnb 2 times now for things that were out of my control. The first time, someone said that we had bed bugs. We didn't have bed bugs, and we got deactivated for weeks. Oh, no, the second time, we tried to get a booking on Halloween, and Airbnb wouldn't let us get the booking because they said that they suspected a party, and it was like 2 older ladies, and they're like, we don't want to party. Like, we just need a place to stay, and we're like, sorry. But this just recently happened, and I'll talk about this later in my series of direct booking in the coming weeks here. But I recently had a TikTok go viral because someone tried to stay at my property and throw a 2,000 plus party at my property. And she went viral on TikTok. I made a response. I shut her down. And I basically stitched together a response that was funny. And I was like, yeah, this isn't happening. And I canceled her booking and whatever. She reported me to Airbnb, and Airbnb took my listing down. Now, I'm sure I broke some kind of terms and conditions in some capacity, but it was all off of Airbnb. None of this had to do with Airbnb.com. It had to do with the fact that it was a TikTok beef. And I got my property that regularly books for $2,000 a night removed for several days. And that is the only place that I list that property. So for me, that was my income source cut off, right? And so I'm tired of this because this happens to people every single day. this doesn't just happen to me. This is happening to thousands of hosts. And I know so many people that have lost their business because of some uncontrollable circumstance outside of Airbnb. And so today's podcast isn't necessarily about getting off of Airbnb and saying, to hell with them. I love Airbnb. I don't know. I don't think you do, but I love Airbnb. But it is time to diversify and maybe not necessarily put all of your eggs in one basket. So I want to talk about some of the things that Airbnb has done that has kind of stirred the pot. And I know you have your own kind of insights and anecdotes into all of this, but I kind of alluded earlier to the fact that Airbnb is kind of just making some policy changes that aren't necessarily beneficial to hosts. And one of those things I think is that recent 15% service charge that they have now put on the hosts versus charging guests 13% and charging hosts 3%, or charging guests 12%, charging hosts 3%.
Yeah.
That used to be the arrangement. We were all happy with that arrangement. Everybody complained on TikTok about it. And wouldn't you know, Airbnb is now making all the hosts kind of front the bill for that.
Yeah. So firstly, for a lot of reasons, I got to say, I do love Airbnb. I love the story.
Okay,
I love
good.
I love
Great.
Brian Chesky. I love the whole story. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. My problem isn't so much with Airbnb because, like you said, they have to do what they've got to do to make money. It's the same with Booking.com. It's the same with Expedia. My problem is with the hosts who refuse to do anything about it, right? And you're right. There's so many instances like yours that are cropping up. And I think the best example I can give is you're a business owner, right? And say that you buy something from me, right? We've got a nice transaction going on. If it's booked on Booking.com, it's like having a big brother looking over your shoulder at every single point and turn where the big brother's like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? It's literally doubting every single move that you make to the point where if a Airbnb guest or an OTA guest is in your property, and if there is one little thing that is wrong, you instantly worry that you're going to get marked down in your review. Because if you get a bad review, then you start worrying about your average scores, and then you start worrying about your superhost badge and all of those things. And that's the problem with Airbnb, is that you're constantly got anxiety.
Yeah.
And it's not a good place to be. And the thing about that,
because you can get fired, right? Like
exactly.
in the 9 to 5 metaphor that we talked about. You get fired from your job, you get fired, from Airbnb by getting delisted. You get a 2-star review that brings your 5-star. Like if you have 3 reviews and 2 of them are 5-star and one of them is 2-star because of just some random crazy guest, your rating it's like a 4.2. It's not good. And it takes a long time to crawl back up. And so you get a couple of these bad reviews over time, you can get fired, in the eye of the public on Airbnb.com.
And this is why I say that I haven't so much got a problem with the OTAs. I've got a problem with the hosts who refuse to change, because I see all these things that are going on, and I see the Facebook groups, and I see the comments, and I see the people that come to me and they go, oh, this has happened. I want to, I know I need to do something. I know I need to come off this platform, but I don't know what to do. And I lay out a foundation of what they need to do. I check in with them like a month later and they're done. Nothing. And so this is why, coming on the podcast, I want to help give some advice and give some feedback of what they can do. But before we do that, let's look at what they have done over the last 2 years, right? So From 2 years ago, what have they done? Number one, you hit the nail on the head. The service fee has gone up. I spoke at one of your events. I stood on stage just under 2 years ago and said, listen, it's going to be a matter of when, not if, they're going to put your fee up, because Booking.com charge a minimum of 15%. The Expedia group charged the same, around about 15%. And Airbnb were charging 3%. Now, Brian Chesky went on TV back end of last year, and he said that we made a mistake with our old charge because they tried to be cute and clever. And they said they want it to be a simplified price, which is simplified pricing. And a lot of people, if you are connected to a PMS like Guesty, for example, you were instantly moved on October the 27th from 3% to 15.5%. And that 0.5% is the one that got me going, because moving from 3% to 15%, and then if the guest isn't paying, that doesn't really spark alarm bells for me. It's that 0.5%. So before the 0.5% increase, everybody was either paying 3% or 15%. What they did is they put everybody on 15.5%. So they moved the needle a little bit. 0.5% in, most people's portfolio means nothing. But if you're at a level of Airbnb, literally overnight, you have had millions to your, to your
Tens of millions.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the reason why that's interesting to me is that Chesky said that he wants the whole of Airbnb platform to be simplified pricing. My new prediction is it's a matter of when, not if, that everybody's going to get moved to 20%. Now, why 20%? If you look at the new tools that they brought in, which was services and experiences, experiences came back, services is brand new. Go look at how much those vendors get charged if you go book a massage or a walking tour in wherever. They get charged 20%. And if they want to have one simplified price throughout the whole website, it's just a matter of when, not if, they're going to go to 20%. Now, moving that 0.5% needle may not sting that much, but adding on an extra, going to 20%, that will. And if we fail to do anything about it, we're just going to be giving them more money. And we can all argue that the service hasn't got better for it. Some may argue it's got worse. Now, if that doesn't hurt, the other things that they've done is they've changed a lot of their policies last year. So they are trying to become the big OTA, so an online travel agent. If you look at the Booking Holidays group, which own Booking.com don't just do hotels. They don't just do vacation rentals. They also do flights. They're an all-in-one OTA. Brian Chesky has said that he wants Airbnb to be the Amazon of travel. He is not investing this time and money at just services, at just experiences. There are going to be more categories, and he has said there are more categories coming, and they want to become this big Goliath online travel agent, because Booking.com, if you look at the stocks and shares, is worth way more than Airbnb, right? We may not think that in the States, because in America, Booking.com isn't really favored upon. You come out of America, you go to Europe, Booking.com is the major booking platform of choice. You go to Asia, Agoda is the major booking platform of choice. Agoda is owned by Booking Holidays Group, which is Booking.com.
Yeah, you're right.
And
Booking Holdings is $100 billion valuation, and Airbnb is $68 billion in valuation. If I'm reading this correctly, or that's their market capitalization.
Yeah. So Airbnb dominate the short-term rental industry, but they don't dominate the hospitality industry. And what Airbnb are doing behind the scenes is they're changing their policies so it mirrors more an OTA. So the cancellation policy just got changed literally overnight. There's been other policies that have changed overnight. One of the things that is changing as well in America, I don't know if anybody's realized this, but you've got temporary phone numbers. So obviously when a guest books, so you got when a guest
the
books,
Uberization of guest
they
data.
want the whole communication to be obviously on their platform, but it's their right to do so. It's their business. It's their rules.
Absolutely. Explain that a little bit though, because what does this mean now? Like you now are unable to get the customer information, basically, right?
Yeah, so basically, we all know this. If a guest books direct, you get phone number, you get email, you get name, you get all the juicy stuff. But if a guest books through Airbnb or Booking.com or Expedia, you get the first name, last name, yes, but you don't get an email address. You just get a what's called a mirrored email address, where it'll be mark.simpson@airbnb.com, you know what I mean? Or something like that. As soon as the guest checks out, that email address, so you can't communicate to it. You can't add it to your CRM because it will go nowhere. But we've had the phone number. The phone number's been great. I've loved having that phone number, because then it means that I can contact my guest after stay. Obviously, Airbnb know this. And now they're putting temporary phone numbers where it's a temporary phone number, but when you call it, it goes to their real phone number. But as soon as the guest checks out, that number disappears. Yeah. So, they're making it harder and harder for you to try and stay in touch with a guest post-booking. They are increasing their costs. I think everybody will agree the level of customer support has dropped, because they are investing so much more money now into AI. And, AI is a lot of things, but it hasn't got common sense. You can definitely argue you're a TikToker. Yes, you may kind of gone against the T's and C's, but you didn't go against the T's and C's of common sense. If you spoke to a human 10 years ago about that, they'd have been like, no problem at all, we'll deal with it. Now, because they've grown so big, they're tapping into AI because they bought an AI solution called Game Planner. They are embedding it massively into their system, and they are hiring so much people that are not skilled, and common sense goes out the window because there are so many people within the organization in that customer support that they're reading from a script.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
it's crazy.
I would say I hear this a lot about the customer service. I mean, in general, I would say I've had a pretty good shake at Airbnb. Like, I think they've sided with me. A lot of people are always like, air cover sucks, blah, blah, blah. I actually think Airbnb has, for the most part, had my back. And so a lot of my anger really doesn't come from that. I think a lot of people are like, Airbnb has gone down the hill, down the wayside. But for me, I'm like, they've had my back for the most part. But it's kind of these small things that are sort of like, you get your listing removed or suspended and there's nothing you can do about it for possibly weeks on end. Like John Hildebrand, I know you know him. He's in the community, and he was deactivated for a very long time. I think for like a month or something like that.
Yeah. Because those who don't know John Hildebrand, he literally can't get higher in the host community for Airbnb. He is like one of the golden boys, and for him to get suspended, it's like, well, what hope is there for us? You know what I mean?
Well, that's what you'd be surprised, man. There's a lot of people that are like, when I talk about, because I share all my stuff on Instagram. That's kind of my day to day. Like when stuff happens, I'm on Instagram, and people are always like, yeah, but you're Raw Built. Like just, phone Brian Chesky. Like everybody thinks I have a direct line to Brian Chesky, and I'm always like, I don't have a rep. There's no Raw Built bat line where I can call Airbnb to have stuff taken care of. Even for me, that doesn't exist. Finally, I'm establishing some contacts, but I get a lot of people that DM me and say, Rob, I know this is a long shot, but my listing just got removed. Like, do you know anybody at Airbnb corporate? And I'm always like, no. Even if I did, it's not like I'm going to be like, yeah, let me patch you in, because then everybody would ask me for that. But I don't have special contacts. And so that becomes a problem when you can't get through to the people that can reestablish your business. And I'll tell you something else that kind of has rubbed me the wrong way, because this was my favorite thing about Airbnb, and kind of gets into the direct bookings. And we're gonna get into very soon here why 2026 is going to be the most important year in hosting history, in my opinion. But Airbnb for a long time was best man wins. If you have the best property, you win. If you have the best copy and the best marketing within the platform, you rise up in the search rankings. And recently, there's been chatter that they're going to introduce sponsored listings. I don't know if you've heard about this. Where basically hosts can now pay to have their listings boosted, which, it's a bittersweet thing, because on one end, it kind of, for us bigger hosts, we can dedicate $1,000 or $2,000 a month as a marketing budget to boosting our presence. But for the smaller mom and pop people that are kind of scrappier, cheaper, just more on a budget, it's gonna really create this like the rich get richer type of scenario, I think, on Airbnb, and it's gonna become this. Even just to go back before everybody gets mad about this, of course, like not just the rich get richer, but the worst host can also become the best host, in that if you're a horrible host with a great property, you can boost it and beat me, a very good host, just because you decided to spend more money than me. And now Airbnb becomes this like, who's paying me the more? They're going to become Yelp, basically, right? Where it's like the worst reviews get filtered. You have to pay money to have the best ones show up. You have to pay money to be at the top of the rankings. And it's like, it's just not a fair level playing ground anymore.
Yeah. Well, fun fact, I used to work for Yelp selling those sponsored listings way back when in the day, 2008, 2009. So I know exactly about that. And this is a true test. Airbnb have said that they listen to the host community. They really do say that they try. And I have seen them try a lot more with events that they're putting on and whatnot. And this is the true test, is that they listen to guests. As you said, just a TikTok storm or a Twitter storm, and they change so much, like cleaning fees and guest service charges. This is my sort of litmus test for Airbnb to see if they really do listen to hosts, because you are right, sponsored listings is not a good idea. It's a great idea for the shareholders. It's a great idea for the P&L of Airbnb. Yeah. It's a really bad idea for what we know and love of Airbnb, which is what it was founded on.
Authenticity. And it's not
see if they
authentic
listen.
anymore.
Yeah, let's see if they are listening. Because if you do think it's a bad idea, try and get in contact with them. There is the Airbnb community forum that I'm not allowed on, but I know there's one there, right? And there is Twitter, there is social media, there are people that you can contact. And you know, it was a throwaway comment from Brian Chesky about sponsored listings. He was talking about it because somebody asked him when they just recently hired an ex OpenAI head of AI, whatever he was doing at that platform. They've hired him at Airbnb to help with their next phase of AI search. He did mention that one of the plans that they were going to be doing is bringing sponsored listings within AI search. And obviously, as we all know, if we bring it in one segment, they're going to bring it in
Right.
all over. I think Airbnb will look so different in 4 years' time than what it does today. But we all know this is a bad idea, right? And I feel like if you truly believe this is a bad idea, do something about it. Don't just sit on your hands. Don't just complain in a Facebook group and go, oh, I don't like this. Go to Airbnb. Go to these events. When you see them at like conferences and whatnot, and you see a booth there, go and tell them, because they will pass the feedback up. And this is a true, like say, it's a test to see if they are listening, because you know, I know, we all know it's not a good idea.
So do me a favor. If I am genuinely curious for everyone at home, if you think that sponsored listings are a good idea, let me know in the comments. And if you think they're a bad idea, let me know in the comments. I actually do know people now. I'm developing relationships with people at Airbnb finally, 8 years later and 5 years into the Raw Built platform. I actually do have some people I can pass that feedback along if the sentiment for my audience is, please don't do this. In order for that to happen, I need to know. So if you think sponsored listings are a good or a bad idea, you don't have to write a long comment if you don't want to. Just write good or bad. I'm genuinely curious what that split's going to be, because I can see the appeal for certain people. Hey, by the way, if you liked this conversation, I've got good news for you. There's way more where that came from. If you want to watch the whole thing, click right here.